Hey everybody, and welcome to Tech Recess with Ben and Mike. I'm your host, Mike Larry. Joining me as always to my left by the power of deductive reasoning, that's Ben Boyd. Ben, let's tell our viewers a little bit about ourselves and what Tech Recess actually is. So, I'm an educator and an enablement architect focusing on empowering others to be successful. I have a strong technical background in service provider switch fabric architecture, routing, and security solutions. For the better part of the last decade, I've been a professional services engineer doing on-site consultant work and public speaking as a technical evangelist. Ben, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Oh, where do I start? I have a lot of experience in all things IT for the past 15 or so years. From application development to cybersecurity to networking. I kind of got my roots in networking. I always like to say my mom was a DBA, my dad was a programmer, and they birthed a networking guy. So I guess that's what I am.
So Tech Recess, what is Tech Recess? Well, Tech Recess is a chance for us to come together in a nice little safe sandbox and talk about all things tech. It gives us a chance and our opportunity to break up the monotony of our day-to-day activities and talk about things going on in the industry, to interact with our peers, engage with an audience, and talk to subject matter experts about things that we feel are relevant. And why are we doing this? Well, to be honest, because Ben and I, just like you guys, we're stuck at home and we're going stir crazy. My family's driving me nuts and I got to have something to do. So we figured what better time to get together than this time right now and to bring you guys something that hopefully educates you and entertains you as well. Ben, I think I heard you were a bad boy. I'm going to put you in timeout real quick. Go to your corner for a minute.
Oh no, I'm in my corner, my timeout corner. I always have to have a soapbox to stand on. I'm a security guy at heart, so I'm going to stand on a soapbox anytime I get it, or I'll stand in the corner and I'll yell at whoever's listening. So, what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about work from home best practices. I've been working from home. I literally haven't had an office to go into since 2010, January 1st, 2010. So, over a decade, I've been working from home. I've learned some things that you should do and some things that you should definitely not do over those last 10 years. So what what we're all in, or most of us in the IT industry are in today, are kind of uncharted territories where all of us are kind of working from home or working from Starbucks, or wherever we can get internet connection these days. And from a security guy's perspective, this is your security team's worst nightmare. Overnight, or practically overnight, their attack surface grew exponentially. They went from a couple ways that hackers can get into your PC until to now multiple ways, whether it's your hotspots that you're using, whether it's your home internet that you're using, whether it's your Bluetooth devices that are sitting right next to your laptops, or your kids' devices in their school laptops that they're bringing home, and all that good stuff. So, from a work from home best practice, really, I think everyone out there needs to help your security team out. They cannot be the protectors of everything and everyone when everyone is working from home. You have to help them out. Security is a team sport, whether or not your role says security or not. So, first things first, if you have a VPN client, use your VPN client. Never connect to anything out there if you are not connected to your work VPN client. I don't care whose client it is. If your security team says use your client, use your client. All right, that's number one. Number two, every Linksys router out there made in the last couple of years, every Asus router, all those home network routers that we have, they have the opportunity to have multiple SSIDs for your network at home. So you can have a guest network, you can have an Internet of Things network, you can have a kids network, you can have all these different kinds of networks out there. All right, you can do that. Make a new network. Go home after you watch this video, or you're already home. Watch this video. When you're done watching this video, go make a new SSID. Call it so and so's work. And the only thing that should connect to this SSID is your work phone, your work laptop, your work iPad, whatever the equipment your work. Go put it on that one, separate it from the rest of the garbage out there, your Amazon Echoes and your Google Homes and all that stuff. Get it off of that network immediately. All right, last things. Actually, I got a couple more things. Use only work approved apps. I know it's really easy to throw something in Dropbox and share it with a friend. I know it's really easy to throw something in a chat window or a Slack or something like that. If those aren't sanctioned apps by your IT security teams, please don't be that person. Don't throw data where it should not go. I know it's easier. Sometimes it feels easier, but your IT security team will thank you immensely by keeping your data secure. And when this all passes through, and they go back and look at through all the forensics and all the logs and all of that, and they see, wow, we weren't breached, we weren't nobody was vulnerable to anything else out there. That might be an opportunity to work from home more frequently, or work remotely more frequently. So this is a great opportunity for you to show that you can be a part of the security team, even if you're not part of the security team. And then lastly, we all know this: stop clicking on links. Be extra careful when you're clicking on links. This is doubly important when you're remote. So your equipment may not be behind all of that fancy protection that your IT teams have built. So go ahead and be extra careful clicking on links in emails, clicking on links when you're surfing cat videos, watching Netflix, whatever it is you're doing to pass the time. Please be careful as you're surfing the internet. And that's it for my corner.
Very well said. Very well said. Now it's time for show and tell. Ben, give people a little overview of what this segment's about. What's the purpose of show and tell here?
Yeah, so show and tell. I mean, we're all third graders at heart, right? We want to bring things and show them to people and share our life experiences and share what's going on in our life and our cool things that we have. So show and tell is a place for sponsors to come in and share things with our viewership. Right now, the first episode, we don't have a sponsor. We'll get into that in a second, but this is a place for our sponsors or future sponsors to come in and give away things to viewers. So tchotchkes here and there, demo licenses, what have you. This is a great place for sponsors to come give free things to viewers and to get their name out in a kind of a marketing type way.
So what do we want to talk about then, since we don't have a sponsor because this is our first episode?
So what I want to talk about is really near and dear to my heart because I am actually the president of InfraGard Arkansas's chapter. So I'll talk a little bit about what InfraGard is and how it can help throughout, especially events like what's going on today in the industry. But really, what InfraGard is a partnership between the FBI and the private sector on all things security related when it comes to critical infrastructure. So critical infrastructure can be really anything that keeps society going, whether you're a retail environment, whether you're a nuclear environment, whether you run the water systems, whether you run the rivers and the lakes and those types of systems, or even sewer systems or what have you. Anything that we can consider as necessary, or in these days essential to what's going on in our daily lives. Grocery stores, for example, are essential in a lot of the shelter in place laws happening or orders happening today. So a lot of that is ways for the FBI to get information and the Department of Homeland Security get information from their public sources to their private sources. So their private sources would be all of us from a private organization being able to join InfraGard and get information from the public FBI sector, as well as share information with each other. So I'm in the IT sector and I share with my sector chief what's going on in my world, and he shares what's going on in the rest of this world. And we have several chapters throughout the United States. Some states like Arkansas have one chapter. Some states like Texas have a lot more than one chapter. Usually it's one chapter for every major metropolitan area. So if you aren't a part of InfraGard, it's free. and it's free to join. It's free to be a member of. All you have to do is take an FBI background check, go to infraguard.org, put your information in, and usually within 3 to 6 weeks, they'll approve you and you'll be a member. And really, once you're a member, that's the starting point. We love for people to get involved. This is a 100% voluntary organization where we sit and talk about what affects critical infrastructure in our region. So I'm from Arkansas. What affects Arkansas might be completely different than what affects California and what affects Florida. But each of those states and each of these regions have different InfraGard chapters for us to get involved. So like I said, near and dear to my heart, if you're in Arkansas, definitely go join. If you're in the rest of the world or in the rest of the US, definitely go join. Infraguard.org is a place to join.
It's a very important topic. You know just as well as I do that it's important in my household. My wife is a member of the board of the Arkansas chapter, and I'm just a lowly member. But we think it's a very important thing to be a part of. So go out, be proactive, and seek out some information. And you can always engage Ben and I if you want additional information on InfraGard as well and how to get in touch with local contacts. So that. Bruce Bonsall. Bruce, thank you so much for joining Ben and I, man. We really do appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks, Mike. Happy to be here. Hi, Ben.
Howdy.
So we big time wanted to bring you on here because we think that business continuity is obviously a hot topic right now. There's been a lot of companies that probably have been entrenched with this legacy mindset of you've got to be in the office 8 to 5 in order to be a contributing member of the workforce. And so they've essentially waited to the 11th hour to put some of these practices in place. And now they see their day-to-day operations being disrupted and they're scrambling right now to find solutions. So we're being engaged with a lot of customers right now just to help them continue their day-to-day operations. So just from a high level, from your perspective, can you tell us what business continuity planning actually means to you?
Yeah, business continuity planning is a process for creating a roadmap for people and organizations to follow during emergencies. It's a playbook to follow, and there's a lot of process involved. So once you've developed your plan, you need to manage it forward. So creating the plan and putting it up on a shelf is absolutely useless. And part of the planning process is really the execution of the plan and eventually getting back to a state of normalcy. So it takes a lot of leadership. And one of the most important things is you're able to lead your organization through a lot of change and hopefully innovate a bit so that you can figure your way forward, because a lot of these things we haven't seen before. And as clairvoyant as we might be, our plans are never going to be 100%. So again, it's a process for managing forward during these trying times.
So is there a difference between business continuity planning and disaster recovery planning? Can you talk to a little bit about how those two are either the same or different?
Sure. Traditionally, disaster recovery really meant recovering infrastructure during a disaster. Business continuity is really keeping your organization moving forward and keeping all essential operations going. So I've been an IT guy for many years. So we used to focus on getting our data center back up and running, getting our applications running, getting the hardware up and running. But but I was also responsible for business continuity for a time, and that was a whole other set of processes that involved the business and what they need to do. And quite frankly, sometimes the plan was to not rely on technology and to go to manual, off the desk methods. So they're complementary, but they are two different things. And I for a business to not include disaster recovery in their business continuity planning, I think would be a mistake because today we all rely so heavily on technology.
Yeah, we're seeing our dependency right now. And I have to ask you, since, the thing that's been happening with this COVID-19 displacing the workforce, it's happened over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks. Does this even matter anymore, or are we talking about this just a little too late?
Well, no, I don't think it's too late for a couple of reasons. Hopefully, this isn't the last time we're faced with a disaster, and I'm not wishing for more. I'm just saying I intend to survive this one, and we'll need to face another one because I'm sure it's not all going to be
It's inevitable, right?
milk and honey and roses going. Yeah, it's inevitable. So even if you didn't nail this one with a great plan, you're going to want to be able to, if you and your organization survive, you're going to want to do a better job on the next one. So, it's not too late to start planning. And I would also say that again, this is the process of managing it forward. So you may be in the middle of it. You may need to scramble because you didn't plan for all of this, but a lot of what goes into a good business continuity planning process involves, being able to understand your essential operations and communicating and leading. So these are things that we're in the middle of. So people need to step up and do these things, even if they didn't have it all in a binder someplace before it happened.
So you mentioned know your business processes. How does a company or an organization get to know those business processes? How does that work?
Well, and that's why you need a planning process. I would say that we've had some regulatory drivers in past years that caused a lot of organizations, I'm thinking of Sarbanes-Oxley in particular, where organizations had to figure out what their operations were. So they have this pretty good idea of what's important to like making money and producing widgets and that sort of thing. But it requires a process and it requires people to take you through that process and to identify all of those critical operations. And you need to do it in your own life, not to be crude, but there are outages of toilet paper because people have figured out that one of their essential operations requires this resource that they don't want to be without. So people are scrambling, um,
Yeah, I hit the store at 6 a.m. this morning just to restock because we didn't catch the first wave and we were holding on by literally a thread.
so yeah, so you think about the need for water and other essentials, and you do that with a business. You figure out what's the input and the output of your business, and you document it, and you figure out who the key people are that do those things. You essentially figure out what you can't live without, and um,
Yeah,
and
and whether you're a pessimist or an optimist, I guess you can kind of look at this as this is really a good opportunity to learn. Whether you're prepared or not prepared, you're faced with a situation right now that's going to expose a lot of holes in your plan if you haven't done your due diligence.
absolutely, it was Ben Franklin said, "By failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail." Uh, so if you weren't prepared, you better scramble and figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
I saw a story online earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday. All the days are starting to blur together as I've been cooped up lockdown, but that a couple went on a hiatus for 29 days. They went out in the woods and camped together, and they actually came back to a worldwide pandemic and had no idea what was going on. So there might actually be some people out there that aren't fully aware of what's been going on or the scope of things. So why do companies care about business continuity? Can you tell us that? Or why should they care?
Well, because they have, well, first of all, they want to survive. They don't want to lose money. They have responsibilities to investors, and many of them are service organizations. They have responsibilities to humanity. I mean, we can't live without hospitals and other industries. So they have an obligation to be able to continue on, as most organizations do. So the better you prepare and the better you train, because this is not, again, you don't just write a plan and then forget about it. Good well prepared organizations actually train for this sort of thing, and they do that so they can figure out whether their plan is going to work or not, and then they replan. So
So I think you kind of answered this already. But is this just a technical thing? I mean, this is tech recess, so all I care about is technology. But are there also, I mean, are there business and financial considerations that are also taken into account during the planning process or inside the planning document itself?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is not just technical. It includes every facet of an organization. You definitely need to figure out financial liquidity issues and that sort of thing. But you were talking, Ben, about security, and I'm a security zealot. And one of the things I want to say amen, brother, to is that you don't drop your security posture during these events, because a lot of bad people in the world will take advantage of these things when during the fog of war, when they are modifying their normal procedures, and somebody might not have gotten the memo about the right procedure. That's when people will take advantage of you. So you need to really be careful with how you authorize changes.
That's a very valid point. In many different landscapes, just over the last week, I've seen people alter their normal method of operation to accommodate for this situation that we're working with. For instance, I had to go to the doctor this morning, and all the procedures were completely changed. They're doing remote appointments now. And in the past, legally, they weren't allowed to write prescriptions for remote appointments. And now they're relaxing those guidelines and restrictions just because we're dealing with this sort of thing. So it's very important, like you say, from a security posture perspective, to stay resilient.
And it's important to have mitigating controls, because sometimes you do have to change your normal control structure, but you better have some other backup methodology so that your posture is not weakened. It just may be changed.
Good information. One thing I wanted to ask was specifically about sizes of companies, because some of my customers are the world's largest service providers to just your normal SMB, small enterprise customers. So when it comes to business continuity planning, does this only apply to big, technically dependent companies, or what size company is too small for business continuity planning?
I don't think any company is too small. I think this goes from the biggest organizations right down to individuals. I mean, we all need to be prepared to carry on in our own way. So I've talked to companies in, like you guys said, most verticals and of all sizes, and some companies have taken this very seriously. They have good plans. They actually exercise the plans. So yeah, you're never too small or too big to do this sort of planning.
Yeah, I think you mentioned we mentioned technology, we mentioned processes for the business, and then you also mentioned key people. And no matter how big or small a company is, they are going to have some sort of key person, some sort of key technology, whether it's a car or a phone or whatever. They're going to have a process. I normally mow lawns this way, or I normally hand out ice cream cones this way. I have a process. So it doesn't matter if you're the largest organization or the smallest in business continuity, because you still have business to continue.
Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, I think leadership and but leading from a like an inspiration perspective, but also leadership in terms of managing things is really important. And large organizations require good managers that can herd a lot of cats, because these things get a little bit crazy, and you need somebody who's really good at communicating and coordinating. So, and I think regardless of even small organizations need that sort of leadership. And when I've seen business continuity processes fail or seem weak, it's when senior people weren't involved in the planning process. They didn't attend the exercises, and because senior people during a real crisis, they better be at the helm and they better be leading and telling people what the organization's going to do, even if there are others that facilitate and manage. Uh, Somebody's got to be stepping up. So those people should be involved in the planning and the testing process every step of the way.
So we only have 4 minutes left. So you mentioned the people who are managing the plan. Who's usually in charge of these plans?
Well, bigger organizations have business continuity planners, and IT organizations usually have a disaster recovery planner. Well, quite often on the IT side, the CIO is the lead person, but they will often tap somebody who is going to facilitate the process, because leadership can't be bogged down with too much minutia during these events. You've got to have somebody that's kind of managing the process forward. Again, they're usually BCP and DR planning people that lead these things.
Ben, that's all I've got since we're getting close to time. Is there any closing comments or questions that you have for Bruce before we turn him loose and enjoy the rest of his day?
Yeah, one last question about putting the plan into practice. I mean, obviously, right now where a lot of organizations are having to put that plan into practice for a real reason. How do you do this outside of a real reason? What is that called? And walk us through.
I think you're talking about tabletop exercises. Those are mock drills where you come up with scenarios, and the people responsible for the planning process will lead people through. Sometimes you don't have the BCP and DR person leading it. You'll have an outside facilitator because you want to test the quarterback, as well. But and you want to be able to throw things at them without them expecting them, so you can see how they can manage during a crisis when things are in flux, and again the fog of war is upon us.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Bruce, thank you
Mike,
so
that's
much.
All my questions.
Yeah, I've got nothing. So I just want to go ahead and say thank you again for taking time out of your day to join Ben and I and discuss this topic that is really relevant and on the forefront of people's minds right now. Whether they're prepared or not, they're definitely thinking about, thank goodness we went through all of these exercises and had this plan ready to go in place, or they're thinking about, oh my God, we are not prepared. So we really do appreciate it, man, and we hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good luck and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, Ben, I'm kicking you out. I'm going to the call to action. It's the kickball kickoff segment.